Silema Chemen.
Oiknis potest.
Tionki orse
namaskar.
Prosfilos
Namaskar. Bishe Shanti.
Onam salvete qui cumperemus.
Witajcie.
太空朋友，您好，您食饱未？太空朋友，有闲就来阮遮坐。您食饱未？有闲就来阮遮
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
These are a few of the 55 languages recorded on the Golden Record. These sounds carry great significance. They're probably the most important sounds that any human has ever produced, and to think that the first thing alien life will hear are these sounds is extremely incredible. Do you speak one of these languages? Maybe you know someone who does. But if you're like me and only speaks one of them, well, let's just say you're a dying breed. I want to talk about my experience learning a language, as well as give some advice on how to help you in your journey. If you intend to pursue one, of course. Well, anyways, let's get started with... Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of a taste of my upbringing, a little bit of snobbish lore, if you will. Both my parents are bilingual, but since they came from a country that primarily speaks English, that is the language I basically grew up speaking. Even though I had a taste of foreign language learning here and there, for most of my life I knew and spoke only English. That sort of makes sense since English is arguably the most important language in the world. I can literally go anywhere else in the world and I'll just be chilling. So, what use is there for me to learn a foreign language? For me at least, what got me into learning my target language was my love for the language, mostly. Just the way it sounds, just how it flows. This is funny to me because compared to the other languages that are out there, mine seems almost completely useless. But anyways, I'll quit stalling and get straight to the point. When I was 11 years old, I discovered this new app that allowed me to learn any language I wanted to. Although, at the time, it didn't have as many languages available on it as it does now, I thought this was an amazing opportunity to start my journey of acquiring a foreign language. Now, guess which language my amazingly wise 11-year-old self chose? German. Yeah, I dropped out of that quickly. But anyways, I was doing German for a while, and I got kind of bored with it. But after learning about the immigrants to a certain island and finding out that I had relatives that worked in the country, I ditched German and found a new love. To be honest, I had no idea why I chose this path. But to be honest, I'm glad I did. As I mentioned before, you can basically have the smallest or dumbest excuse to learn a language. For me, it's mostly because I think Italian sounds sexy, but then again, most Romance languages sound that way. But personally, I prefer the sound of Italian more than the rest. There is just something magical about the language, just how it flows, just how it kind of makes sense since most of the words we use to describe music comes from this language. When you're keeping up with metronome, you keep up with the tempo of the song. Or when you hear the rallentando as the piece comes to an end, or the allegro as the piece picks up. And we also get a lot of words from Italian, such as umbrella, fiasco, and maybe cartoon, I'm pretty sure. So it's not as useless as others may think it is. Here's some lore for you guys. Did you know that in 1861, only 3% of Italians spoke Italian? That's because for the most part of its history, there have been many empires, kingdoms in the region of Italy. So not every Italian speaks Italian, but some may know the regional dialect. For example, sono andato al cinema con gli amici miei. Sono andato al cinema con I miei amici. I went to the movie theater with friends. Oggi non resta ferrasin che que e niente resta da ridere. Oh ragazzino, non fa l'assino, che qua non c'è niente da ridere. Hey kid, don't act stupid, there's nothing to laugh about. Andai a mare e non agattai manco acqua. Andare a mare e non trovare nemmeno acqua indica una persona che non trova nulla, un incapace. Going to the sea finding no water means a person who finds nothing is incompetent. As you can see, they can range from being somewhat similar to Italian to being almost unintelligible from the standard. However, if you do actually go to Italy, you might not find that many people talking in dialect. Well, at least for the younger generation. I kind of find it a little funny because sometimes when I watch something dubbed in Italian, whenever a character is speaking in Italian in the original English version, they say that they're speaking in dialect in the Italian version. Take this example from I Griffin.
Come? Che dici?
Peter, che cosa stai facendo?
Parlo in dialetto.
And take this one from Mafia.
Parli in anticchia di siciliano? O capo, durissimo piano.
Scusa, non parlo il dialetto.
Perfetto.
Just makes you wonder what other countries do to solve this problem. Anyways, while I mostly used Duolingo to teach myself Italian, I also used a bunch of other apps as well. Mostly because I wanted to experiment more, but an app I used a lot was Memrise. I think I learned a lot of vocabulary from there, and to be honest, I liked it way more than Duolingo. Too bad it's not free. Guess that's why I didn't use it anymore. So after a few years, I slacked off a bit in my Italian. I knew a lot of vocabulary, but not enough to form complete thoughts. And I only knew the present tense, no past, no future. All I could ever talk about was what is going on in the now. Until, let's just say there was a zombie apocalypse in which we all had to stay inside. Yeah, that. But because I wasn't able to get out of the house because of reasons, I decided to, you know what, I'll just stop stalling and actually teach myself Italian grammar. I tried searching for people online to help me, but I decided to take measures into my own hands. I wrote down all the conjugated forms, studied them, practiced them, and I studied the 1,000 most common Italian words. Although I wasn't fluent in the slightest, I was more advanced than I ever was. I basically built a really good foundation for myself in my Italian journey. And even though I've been off and on here and there, I'm still happy about what I've accomplished and what I continue to accomplish. Learning a language isn't just something that you do to impress someone. It's something that you do to expand your knowledge about yourself in general. You don't just learn words, you learn a way of life. So what if you don't want to learn a language, or you're just a filthy fence-sitter? Well, I have some suggestions for you that may sway you towards my side.
Se siete come me è un po' difficile trovare degli amici, specialmente se non riuscite a trovare qualcuno che è simile a voi. Però se scegliete di imparare una lingua straniera è possibile fare amicizia con persone che stanno facendo la stessa cosa. Tutti sono d'accordo che è più facile farsi degli amici se si hanno dei punti in comune. Lo dico perché è anche dovuto alla mia esperienza. Mi sono fatto molti amici italiani che stanno anche loro imparano una lingua straniera, l'inglese. Quindi nel processo di acquisizione di una lingua straniera potete creare legami con persone di tutto il mondo. Un altro motivo è un po' più scientifico rispetto al precedente, però è comunque importante. Imparare una lingua straniera può far crescere la creatività e migliorare la memoria. È ovvio che quando cresciamo perdiamo alcune abilità cognitive. Ad esempio, un grande problema nel nostro mondo è l'Alzheimer. È possibile che se più persone imparano una nuova lingua, questo possa diminuire la malattia nella popolazione. La creatività è una cosa bella, ci rende chi siamo. Diventerà più facile esprimere un'idea nella vostra lingua. La terza ragione per cui bisognerebbe imparare una lingua straniera che non ho assolutamente trovato su internet è che può aprire la porta ad un altro mondo, una cultura straniera. Perché molte persone vogliono imparare giapponese e coreano? Almeno qui negli Stati Uniti non sono lingue popolari. Anche quelle persone che stanno imparando queste lingue non sono coreane o giapponesi, per esempio. Quindi il motivo non è la famiglia, il motivo è la cultura. È anche un motivo per cui ho scelto l'italiano. La storia che è iniziata nella Roma antica e che ha continuato durante il Rinascimento. E il cibo, non devo dire altro. Il cibo e basta, vedete?
How about some advice for learning a new language? While there are millions of ways to learn a second language, the method I chose and mainly stick to is the MIA method. It isn't something that you need. Feel free to try other methods out there, but in my opinion, this method mixes the best of both worlds, according to me at least. Efficiency and entertainment value. Let me explain. Basically, MIA derives from the input hypothesis created by this little guy. It states that we can acquire languages from the content we can almost, but not 100% understand. However, we can basically fill in the pieces with context. We can apply this particular method when we teach ourselves a new language. For example, let's say I'm watching my favorite episode of Lo Straordinario Mondo di Gumball. For this method to work, basically I have to pay very close attention to what's being said. Let's take this example.
Ehi piccola, prestami il triciclo, sto per perdere il mio migliore amico del cuore. Ok.
From the context, we can infer that the word tricicolo means tricycle in Italian, assuming you already know all the other words around it basically. I do suggest that you guys look deeper into this topic to have a better understanding of it, so I'll put a link in the description. But here are some things that helped me a lot personally. Take this with a grain of salt, but this is my experience. One thing I love to do is find media I'm already familiar with, not just ones I like. For example, with The Amazing World of Gumball, I watched this show many times. I was even there when it first aired back in 2011, which for me makes it a perfect tool for immersion since I basically grew up with it. It's basically like a parasite in my brain right now. Since I basically already knew what is being said in English, I could basically just use context to fill in the dots. And the best part is, I really like this show. Sure, it's not Adventure Time or Gravity Falls, but it's probably the funniest thing I remember in my childhood. And since I don't need to know every word being said to understand it, the process is efficient since I only need to understand what I need to understand. This is why I prefer this method. It takes a task that seems daunting and terrifying, and makes it easy to digest by making the process intuitive. However, I don't suggest you try it if you're an absolute beginner though. You still need to have a good foundation on the language you're trying to learn. Take this example. Now, do you understand a single word this guy just said?
Yes.
Of course not. I suggest trying something out like Duolingo for starters and learning at least the 1,000 most common words in the language. Also, grammar rules for obvious reasons. Yes, you won't know enough to be fluent, obviously, but you will know enough to basically get a good head start on your journey. Have fun.
Imparare una lingua straniera è una cosa bella. Non è solo un hobby, ma anche un viaggio. Forse sembra un po' difficile per voi, però con convinzione e perseveranza potete fare qualunque cosa vogliate. Non mollate mai. Grazie per la vostra attenzione e ci siamo al prossimo video.